Compression. It is a seriously underused pedal. I'm not talking about in the studio, there's compression everywhere in the studio, but live. Today we are diving into compression for live uses and how it can transform your tone. Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Alex. I'm a guitarist based here in the UK. On this channel we talk about guitar chops, guitar techniques and musician mindset. Today we are talking about compression. Now I love compression. I can't get enough compression. However, you can over-compress, and over-compressing sounds absolutely terrible. So today we are talking about how to use compression in a musical way live and how it can transform your tone live. It can really add warmth to your tone live, and that's why I love it. I think of compression as adding a lovely hug to your tone. I use it on pretty much everything, and we are going to discuss how I personally use it for my tonal needs. This is a video specifically targeting live uses, okay? I use compression in a different way for recorded sounds. Now, the music we heard at the start of the video, that is purely using the Wampler Ego Compressor, the mini version. So it's kind of how I would hear my sound live. I haven't added any compression in post-production. It is purely coming from the Wampler Ego Mini Compressor. So let's get to it. Firstly, so if you're new to compression, I'm going to give you a very, very basic definition of compression. Okay, what compression does is it basically normalizes your dynamics. So it takes the dynamics that are really loud and the dynamics that are quiet, and it tries to bring the quiet up and the loud down, so it's a normalized volume throughout the whole of the audio signal. Now that is a very basic definition of compression. There are loads of different types of compressions, loads of different controls that all factor how the compression sounds, but I like to keep things simple, okay? That's why I'm using a very simple effects pedal, and I use it for very simple techniques, and we'll dive into those in a minute. Why I use the Ego Compressor in particular. There's a lot of great pedals on the market, okay, and they all sound great. As long as you're going for pedals that are made with good components, good quality parts, and the company has a good ethos, I think you're going to get, you know, a good standing pedal. However, I use the Wampler Compressor because it has a blend knob on it. Okay, it means I can dial in a tone from completely dry, so no compression at all, to completely wet, which is fully compressed, the pedal in full force. And that also means I can dial in a lovely balance between wet and dry tones. Gives me a lot of tonal options, and that's what I want, because there are many ways you can make your compression pedal sound absolutely terrible, and we are going to look at some of those errors first. So first off, common mistakes. We can make our compression sound absolutely terrible. So in this first example, I've given a very typical over-compressed sound that is just going to sound rubbish on the stage. We have the blend knob fully wet, so the compression is as active as possible, and we have the sustain knob all the way up so it's as squashed as possible as well. Also, I've set the volume at a random position, and we're going to talk about why the volume is really important on a compression pedal. So with those controls, we have this sound, and you can already hear, with my volume knob turned all the way up on the guitar, can you hear that? It's very noisy. We've got a very noisy signal coming from the amp. And that's our first telltale sign that our compression isn't dialed correctly. You are always going to get slightly more noise from a compression pedal because what it is doing, it is trying to bring the signal of your guitar up to a normalized level. So when the guitar is just turned up, it will always try and amplify that volume a little bit, but we can control that. So when we play chords, when the compression is like this, it is super squashed. It is so squashed. It sounds terrible. Sometimes super squashed sounds good, okay? But in most situations, we just want to hug the tone with the compression pedal. So, how do we turn this into a usable sound? Let's talk about the sustain first. You want to dial down the sustain until you can hear the compression kicking in, but it is not overpowering where it's taking away the natural nuances of the guitar. So, let's look at this. I've took the sustain down to about 1 o'clock. Now I can still hear the compression. And it's still quite an aggressive compression. However, the signal isn't overly squashed where it just sounds cheap. Okay, we've got a lot of warmth with this sound. Now the sustain is sorted, I want to sort out the blend. I like to bring in quite a lot of the dry signal. That's going to bring back a lot of character to our sound, a lot of the natural nuances of the guitar. Okay, we don't want to sound really flat when we're playing. Over-compressed sounds can often make us sound really flat. We don't want to sound really flat. So let's bring in some of that dry signal. Okay, so I've turned the blend to just over 12 o'clock. It brought back some of that sparkle into my tone. And that's what I want. I want some of those natural sparkly sounds from the guitar. Okay, so now we've sorted out the sustain and the blend, we can go on to the volume. You don't want to sort out the volume before you've sorted out the sustain and the blend, because the sustain and the blend both affect the volumes. So you'll be going back and forth between the volume and sustain and blend every time you change anything on the sustain or blend. So sort the sustain and blend out first, and then we go to the volume. Now, the trick I want to achieve with the volume is I want the volume to match the signal of my amp. So I don't want it to be quieter and I don't want it to be louder. So let's sort that out. So I've brought the volume back to slightly under halfway. I'm just using my ears for this. I'm not looking at the pedal at all. The amp and the pedal will be different for everybody's setup. But now I've brought it back to match the volume of my amp. It's no longer extraordinarily noisy coming out of the amp, okay? And now I can hear we have such a warm, hug to our tone. Now remember, these are my personal techniques to get guitar tone. This is not a pedal demo, nor is it a how to use compression video. This is how I use compression and how I enhance my tone with compression. This is a mini series that I'm doing on my personal tone, what I personally do to generate guitar tone. My little tips, my little tricks that work for me personally, and how I look at guitar tones. So I suppose you could say this is my philosophy on a compression pedal live. Anyway, if you enjoyed that, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment below with any tips and tricks you like to do with compressors, and until next week, have a good one.